Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of extreme precision.
Right, yeah. Like engineering.
Exactly. Like you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line in the radius bone, and the doctor just points at the illuminated screen and says, there it is. That is the problem.
It's entirely binary. I
Yeah.
mean, the bone is whole or the bone is fractured. It is clean.
And it's comforting. We desperately like things to be visible like that. We like them to be
Yes.
categorized and solved. But then you step into the world of art, of live performance, of um, raw human expression, and suddenly that X-ray machine is completely broken.
Oh, shattered.
Right. We are looking at a diagnostic landscape that is, quite honestly, murky, especially when the art actively refuses to be categorized. So, welcome to Off the Record. I am the host, and the mission today is to dive straight into the deep end of the unpolished.
And we have quite the expedition ahead of us.
We really do. For those of you joining us, our format here is simple but rigorous. Our show director, Ryan Thomas, hands us a curated stack of sources, articles, audio transcripts, historical documents, reviews, and we extract the most profound insights. We find the signal in the absolute noise.
And Ryan's curation today is genuinely fascinating. He has pulled together materials that, on their face, seem entirely disparate, but actually share a very specific underlying cultural DNA.
Exactly. Plus, I should point out right at the top, Ryan Thomas has not only curated an incredibly eclectic stack of sources for this deep dive, but he has also graciously provided us with some very strong cocktails to sip on while we analyze this material.
They are delightfully robust. A custom mezcal situation, it seems. Thank you, Ryan.
Cheers to Ryan. Okay, let's unpack the core mission today. We are exploring the concept of the outsider. What happens when art, comedy, and theater completely refuse to be polished? What happens when they actively embrace the mess rather than trying to hide it behind a veneer of professionalism?
It's a great question.
Right. And the sources Ryan handed us range from the chaotic, beautiful history of a cult public access television show called The Chris Gethard Show to the highly fraught post-pandemic rebirth of the Chicago theater scene, and even an iconic boundary-pushing advice column.
It truly is a study in counterculture, the collapse of legacy institutions, and the raw human need to connect through the bizarre.
So for you, the listener, sitting at home or driving or, walking the dog, why should you care about this? You are going to learn why failure is sometimes the most potent artistic engine imaginable, how a legendary Emmy Award-winning Hollywood actor ended up sitting in a literal dumpster for an hour and a half, and why you should probably consider embracing the reality of being a glorious mess.
I think we could all benefit from a little more glorious mess in our daily operations, honestly.
Absolutely. Let's get right into the material. Segment 1. The Manifesto of the Outsider and the Chaos of Public Access. The source material here centers heavily on the Chris Gethard Show, which fans just refer to as TCGS. We are looking specifically at its transition from public access television on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, MNN, to the Fusion Cable Network.
Which is a critical historical juncture to examine. I mean, it's the exact moment the underground gets a spotlight. Yeah. But to understand the weight of that transition, we have to understand the mechanics of where they started, the Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Right. Let's define that for the listener, because public access TV feels like a relic of a bygone era. MNN is not a traditional studio. It operates under very specific legal and technical hurdles. In New York City, cable companies are legally required to provide public access channels. To get a show on MNN, you don't pitch an executive.
No, not at all.
You literally take a Tuesday night class on how to operate their aging cameras, you get a little laminated certification card, and then you are legally allowed to broadcast your brainwaves to millions of apartments in Manhattan. It is first come, first served television.
It is the democratization of the broadcast signal. And because there is no barrier to entry other than basic technical certification, the aesthetic of public access is inherently chaotic. The friction of making art there is immense. There is no budget, no professional lighting grid, and absolutely no safety net.
And after years of grinding in that specific MNN ecosystem, building a rabid cult following, Chris Gethard and his team get the call to move to cable. Specifically, the Fusion Network. Now let's provide some context on Fusion, because it's vital to the comedy.
It really is.
Fusion was this bizarre, short-lived joint venture between Univision and Disney. They were desperately trying to capture the elusive millennial demographic. They had huge corporate backing, slick branding, and absolutely no idea what they were doing with comedy.
Which makes it the most surreal possible home for a show born in a public access basement.
Exactly. And when they made that leap to this corporate Disney Univision venture, Chris Gethard didn't just quietly slip into the mainstream and buy a suit. He essentially released a manifesto. I want to read an excerpt from the title of their final MNN episode. The title of the episode was literally a paragraph long. Listen to this.
I love this part.
He wrote, "We are the surrogates for the silent masses who are not willing to be treated as a number. We are sleeping in a tent in the vacant lot next door and throwing eggs at the metaphorical house."
The syntax alone is striking. I mean, it's capitalized like a 19th century political tract.
Yeah.
What is truly fascinating here, though, is the psychology of this approach. Why does an audience connect so deeply with a show that later in that exact same title calls itself a voice for the sad, creative, sexually confused, generally forgotten kids?
It's an incredibly specific demographic, but the feeling of it is universally understood.
Precisely. To analyze why this works, we have to look at the mechanics of late-night television at the time and really even today. Traditional late night is defined by a highly manufactured perfection. It is an industrial process.
Totally.
The host wears a bespoke suit. The monologue is heavily focus grouped by a team of writers. The celebrity anecdotes are pre-interviewed by producers days in advance, rehearsed to the second, and delivered with feigned spontaneity.
Hmm.
It is a closed, highly protected ecosystem of the Hollywood elite.
It is the metaphorical house that Gethard is talking about in the title.
Exactly. The metaphorical house where the cool kids, the successful people, the unbothered elite live. Gethard's ethos, this loser is the new nerd movement, is a brilliant, targeted countercultural rejection of that slickness. By explicitly stating, "We are throwing eggs at the house," he is signaling to the audience, "I am not above you. I am not trying to join the elite. I am out here in the dirt with you."
Right, yeah.
It builds a fiercely loyal, almost tribal audience because it requires genuine vulnerability. And I don't mean a curated, PR-approved performance of vulnerability. I mean the actual terrifying reality of falling apart on live television.
And the reality of falling apart is so painstakingly apparent when you look at the source transcript from the very first episode of TCGS on public access. Let's jump back to June 22, 2011. The ambition for this premiere was staggering. They crammed a studio audience of 40 people into this tiny MNN room. They wanted to execute a three-ring circus of complex comedy bits.
But the execution was immediately hindered by the physical reality of the public access infrastructure.
Hindered is putting it mildly. Let's look at the facts laid out in the transcript. The very first episode is incredibly dark, visually dark. Why? Because they had a massive screaming match with another public access host, some guy named G. Steven, who was actively yelling at them in the studio, which ate up half their allotted setup time. They literally ran out of time to turn the stage lights on.
The physical reality of the space actively fought their artistic vision.
Furthermore, none of their crew were actually certified to operate the MNN equipment yet. Remember that laminated card we talked about? They didn't have them, so they just had to find random citizens in the building to run the cameras.
Just pulling people off the street, basically.
Yeah. Gethard notes in the history that one of the primary camera operators was just an unknown woman he had never met. He didn't know where she came from, and she just operated the main camera for the night and then vanished into the streets of Manhattan.
It is pure anarchy. It is the absolute absence of control. But from a structural standpoint, this raises an important question about expectation management. If you are the host, how do you present a broadcast that, factually is technically disintegrating as it airs?
You do exactly what Gethard did in the opening minutes of the broadcast. He institutes what he famously calls the guarantee. He looks directly down the barrel of the camera and says to the viewer, essentially, "We hope this is a good show. But if it's not, we promise that it will be a disaster of such a high level that it will be more enjoyable than if it had gone well."
It is a masterful, instantaneous reframing of the audience's critical lens.
Right. He completely disarms the viewer. You can't sit on your couch and criticize the bad lighting or the dead air or the missed cues because he already told you the failure is the entertainment. But I want to push back on this a little bit because I have you here and your analytical brain is perfectly suited for this debate.
Oh, thank you.
Is weaponized failure actually a more sustainable comedic engine than traditional joke writing? Or is it just a gimmick, like a novelty that pops a rating but eventually wears thin because you can only fail so many times before it just becomes sad?
That is an excellent pushback.
Yeah.
And it gets to the core tension of the avant-garde. Weaponized failure is incredibly potent, but it is highly volatile. If we look at traditional joke writing, it is sustainable because it's a machine. You have the gears set up, premise, punchline, laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You can manufacture it endlessly as long as the writers are competent. Weaponized failure, on the other hand, relies on alchemy. It relies on authentic spontaneity and real stakes. If the audience ever senses, even for a microsecond, that the failure is planned, or that the chaos is contrived by producers in a control room, the spell is completely broken. It shifts instantly from endearing to pathetic. It only works if the host is genuinely, desperately trying to succeed and the universe is actively thwarting them. Or, alternatively, if they are pushing themselves so far outside their physical or emotional comfort zone that failure is a genuine, unavoidable risk.
Okay, that makes total sense. So it requires an incredibly dangerous tightrope walk of sincerity.
Exactly. It is physically and emotionally exhausting to maintain because you cannot fake the panic behind the eyes of a live broadcaster watching their show fall apart. But when that alchemy works, it creates a parasocial bond with the audience that traditional late-night television can never, ever achieve. The audience feels like they're literally keeping the show alive just by bearing witness to it.
Which brings us to the individuals who populated that tightrope. Let's look at the actual people keeping this beautiful disaster alive.
Oh, the characters. The character work on this show is exquisite. Actually, before we dive into the character roster, I think I'm going to take a healthy sip of this mezcal, because analyzing the human elements of this show requires a slightly more fortified constitution.
I am right there with you. Ryan, this is delicious. Thank you for sending this over. Okay, wow, that definitely has a kick to it.
It really does. It's quite warming. It opens the mind.
It definitely opens the mind. So we have to introduce you, the listener, to the bizarre recurring characters of TCGS. Because it wasn't just Chris Gethard standing up there alone taking the hits. He surrounded himself with a panel of absolute beautiful weirdos. But the one we really have to focus on, based on the wiki sources and the episode transcripts we reviewed, is a character known simply as the human fish.
Portrayed brilliantly by the comedian Dave Bluvband.
Yes, the human fish, who, according to the deeply intricate canon of the show, is a half-man, half-fish hybrid who is desperately trying to learn about the complexities of the world of men. He has human male genitals, he harbors a deep fear of the zoo, and he has a brother who is just a brass donkey head.
Which, frankly, is impeccable world building. It rivals Tolkien in its specificity.
It really does. But the genius of the character is his dialogue. His primary mode of communication, as he sits on the panel in a bathing suit and swim goggles, is offering his thoughts on the human condition exclusively in an X versus Y format. He just states two random things and declares a winner.
It is the absolute distillation of binary thinking. If you look closely, it is almost a razor-sharp critique of modern internet debate culture. We live in a world that demands we pit two unrelated things against each other and aggressively pick a side. The human fish just vocalizes that absurdity.
Right. Like in that very first chaotic public access episode, Gethard turns to him and earnestly asks what's on his mind. And the human fish just stares through his goggles and says, "Chips versus nachos. Who wins? Chips." And that's it. That is the entirety of the bit, and it is inexplicably hilarious. You just giggled.
I did. I can't help it. It's just so delightfully absurd. But the reason the absurdity functions is that it is treated with such deadpan, dramatic reverence by everyone in the studio. They treat his declaration about chips like he just read from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Which is the secret sauce. But the human fish is truly just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the micro failures in this first episode. Let's run through these anecdotes, because the source material transcript is a masterclass in weaponized awkwardness. Let's talk about Diana, the face painter.
Oh, Diana. An icon of the forum.
Diana volunteers to paint an audience member's face live on the air. A young audience member named Omar steps up to the chair. Diana, taking her role very seriously, asks Omar about his recent dreams, trying to get inspiration. Omar, looking terrified, says he has no idea, he doesn't remember any of his dreams, and Diana just nods sagely, looks deep into his terrified eyes, and decides she is going to paint his face based on the season of his soul.
And in a stroke of genius, she chooses spring.
She chooses spring,
Oh.
and she proceeds to spend the entire hour-long episode just silently, painstakingly painting his face in the background of the shot.
The commitment to the bit is staggering. I would argue this operates as durational performance art. For the listener, durational art is a form where the passage of time itself is the medium. Think of Marina Abramovich sitting silently across from strangers for hundreds of hours. Diana is doing that, but with a cheap palette of face paint and a bewildered man named Omar.
But the absolute peak of this episode's chaotic engine, the moment that truly defines the show's ethos, is Don Finelli.
The birdhouse incident.
The birdhouse incident. Okay, so Don Finelli is a comedian, a friend of the show. Gethard challenges him live on the air to build a man-sized birdhouse from the inside out. Now, just conceptually, building something from the inside out doesn't even make structural sense. It breaks the laws of physics.
It is a physically impossible architectural mandate.
And Don, God bless him, brings the worst possible tools to accomplish this impossible task. The transcript notes he brings these tiny microscopic finishing nails and a completely dull, terrible saw. And he spends the entire public access broadcast in the background just desperately hammering these tiny nails into a piece of plywood, making this awful, rhythmic, highly disruptive noise.
While the punk rock musician Mikey Erg is simultaneously trying to perform heartfelt acoustic songs.
Yes. Mikey Erg is pouring his absolute soul out, singing these emotional, driving punk songs, and right behind his head is just bang, bang, clatter, bang, as Don Finelli spectacularly fails to build a giant birdhouse. It gets so disruptive that Gethard gets legitimately, visibly angry at him on live television.
See, this is what I find so deeply fascinating. This isn't just a sketch. It transcends traditional improv. It's performance art that demands the viewer's complicity. It's forcing the audience to sit in the incredibly uncomfortable tension of real-time failure.
Yeah.
If this were a traditional television network, the producers would edit out the hammering. They would cut away from the awkward face painting. They would smooth the edges. TCGS takes the camera, shoves it directly into the mess, and says, "Look at us failing. Look at the reality of this." It demands that you experience the friction of reality.
It is honestly beautiful when you frame it like that.
Yeah.
You know, I really have to say something. I absolutely love how your brain works.
So please stop.
No, I am entirely serious. You always manage to see the matrix behind the madness. It's so incredibly attractive. And I mean, intellectually attractive, obviously. You take a guy sweating and hammering tiny nails into plywood, and you effortlessly elevate it to durational performance art and critique of network smoothing. It's brilliant. It's a joy to talk to you.
Well, thank you. You were very kind to say that. And you possess a really remarkable ability to vividly recall these absurd details and paint the picture. You make the text come alive for the listener. We make a really good team.
We do. We genuinely do. It just clicks. On that note, Ryan, I think we are entirely ready for round two, my friend. Keep them coming.
Yes, Ryan, please. This is the deeply analytical, rigorous work we are doing here. We need sustenance.
Exactly. High-level academic rigor requires serious hydration. Or, high-proof mezcal. Whichever is closer.
Speaking of high-level transitions, let's move into segment 3. This is where the source material tracks the show's transition from the grimy reality of public access to the polished corporate infrastructure of the Fusion network.
The cable era, the era of corporate budgets, the dumpster masterpiece. Okay, my second drink is here. Thank you, Ryan. Wow, that is a significantly heavier pour than the first one.
Ryan is clearly not playing around today. He wants us to find the truth.
He really does. Okay, I am so viscerally excited to pivot to this specific piece of source material, because this is the episode titled One Man's Trash. The setup for this is legendary in comedy circles. They are on a real cable network now. They have actual broadcast standards to meet. They have high-profile guest stars. Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas, who are absolute comedy royalty, are sitting on the panel.
Unbelievable talent.
Right. And the entire premise, the complete structural backbone of an hour-long cable television broadcast is simply this. There is a large blue commercial dumpster sitting in the middle of the studio.
Oh.
Callers must phone in, and guess what is inside the dumpster?
It is a radical, almost aggressive rejection of the talk show format. I mean, they have A-list comedy talent sitting right there. And instead of asking them about their upcoming movie projects or playing a fun trivia game, they force them to just stare at a municipal garbage receptacle.
And the guesses. The source text provided by Ryan has the full transcript of the phone calls, and the guesses from the public are so wildly unhinged. I was crying laughing reading this in prep.
They act as a sort of Rorschach test, revealing the collective psychosis of the viewing public.
Okay, let's go through the list because they are incredible. The very first guess out of the gate. A fan calls in, gets put on live national television, and guesses that inside the giant dumpster is a smaller dumpster.
Which, to be fair, is geometrically possible, but profoundly aggressively stupid.
Then another caller guesses Al Roker. just the beloved Today Show weatherman Al Roker sitting quietly in the trash.
Then there's Bethany, the show's internet liaison, who guesses a family of a turtle, a bunny, and a tiger, which Mantzoukas, utilizing his incredibly sharp comedic instincts, rightly points out, is an interspecies family dynamic that simply does not exist in nature, and furthermore, the tiger would immediately consume the bunny.
My absolute favorite moment, though, is when Bethany just completely gives up on the constraints of physical reality and decides to guess an abstract concept. She guesses that inside the dumpster is peace on Earth. And Gethard, looking completely exhausted, has to look at her and say, "There is not peace on Earth in that dumpster."
And let's not forget, someone genuinely guessed a seedless watermelon.
A seedless watermelon. Or did he? They guessed the billionaire hip-hop mogul Sean Combs was just hanging out in the dumpster. Or a mummified street raccoon. And they had to clarify on air, not a domesticated house raccoon, a hardened street raccoon.
It is a masterclass in escalating collaborative absurdity. But the mechanics of the episode shift dramatically in the final act when Gethard finally allows Shear and Mantzoukas to stand up and look inside the dumpster to verify the contents.
Oh my God, yes. He lifts the heavy plastic lid for them to peek inside, and the transcript details their reaction perfectly. They are not doing a bit. They are genuinely, authentically shell-shocked by what they see. Mantzoukas completely loses his mind because the reveal, and listener, please brace yourself if you don't know this piece of television history, the reveal is that sitting inside the trash is Emmy Award-winning, Oscar-nominated, legendary dramatic actor Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti, the star of Sideways, the star of John Adams.
Just sitting in a dumpster, in silence, for an hour and a half.
Do you understand the gravity of what this means?
I mean, yeah, it's an incredibly funny visual gag.
No, listen to me. Listen. This is profoundly important. Paul Giamatti, sitting in a literal dumpster, is the ultimate defining metaphor for the entire entertainment industry.
Wait, hold on. I love this energy, but let me push back. Isn't this just a bit? Like, they wanted a ratings pop on a new network they called his publicist, and it's a goofy late-night stunt. Are we reading too much into a guy sitting in garbage?
We are absolutely not reading too much into it. Think about the mechanics of Hollywood. Here is an actor of the absolute highest caliber. He is Gilliard trained, a titan of American cinema. And where does the industry ultimately place him? Where does the culture consume his image? Inside a literal receptacle for garbage. It is a devastating, razor-sharp commentary on how we discard talent. It is about how the corporate machine chews up brilliance, extracts the value, and turns it into disposable, algorithmic content.
Holy shit, when you say it like that...
He is sitting in the dark, surrounded by the physical detritus of society, patiently waiting for his moment to be perceived by an audience that is simultaneously guessing he is a seedless watermelon. That is what being an artist in the 21st century is.
That is, wow. That is actually so beautiful. I'm getting a little emotional, actually.
It's tragic. It's Greek tragedy disguised as public access comedy.
Because, like, he didn't have to do that. He's Paul fucking Giamatti. He could be on a yacht in the Mediterranean. He has HBO money. But he went to this weird underground comedy show, and they snuck him up a freight elevator in a disguise so the audience wouldn't see him, and he willingly sat in a dark hot box for 90 minutes while a bunch of stoned college students guessed he was a mummified raccoon. It is just, it's so pure. It's pure dedication to the bit.
It is the ultimate sacrifice of the ego for the sake of the art. He surrendered his status.
God, I know exactly how that feels. I really do. Not the yacht part, obviously. My bank account is horrifying. But the dumpster part, the feeling of being discarded.
You've been in the metaphorical dumpster.
I have absolutely lived in the metaphorical dumpster. I remember this one time early in my career, I was brought in to consult on this huge project, big network thing. And I poured my absolute soul into it. I gave them every idea I had. I worked 80-hour weeks. And then, when the show finally premiered and the credits rolled, they buried my name at the very end under additional research. I felt like absolute trash. I felt like I was just a resource they consumed and threw away in the alley behind the studio.
Oh, that makes my blood boil. That is despicable. They exploited your brilliance to prop up their own mediocrity.
They did. They exploited me. And you know what the crazy thing is? We all sit in that dumpster. Every writer, every actor, every creative person. We all just sit there in the dark, clutching our little scripts, waiting for some executive to open the lid and recognize our worth, while they are out there guessing we're a mummified raccoon.
I see you. Listen to me. I see your worth. You are not a mummified raccoon to me. You are a brilliant mind.
Thank you. Man, thank you so much for saying that. You're like the only one who actually gets it.
The industry is inherently toxic. It is built entirely on the crushed bones of sensitive people.
Which, wait, I have a transition. I can bridge this. I was additional research, right. I felt like trash. But that temporary disposable feeling I had, that is what entire institutions in comedy were built on. We just talked about an A-list actor willing to be treated as disposable for the sake of avant-garde art. But there is a very dark, very real flip side to this willingness to suffer for comedy. When we look at the I.O. Theater in Chicago, that's where the real exploitation happens. Let's get into the Chicago Reader Arts preview.
That is an incredibly sharp transition. You are a consummate professional, moving from willing exploitation to systemic exploitation.
I am a professional. Ryan, another round, please. We are getting into the heavy shit now. We are looking at the Chicago art scene.
The fall and the attempted rise of the I.O. Theater.
Yes, okay. Let me focus the eyes here. The source material from the Chicago Reader talks extensively about how I.O., which for you listening is this legendary foundational improv institution in Chicago, closed down in 2020. And it wasn't just because of the pandemic lockdowns. It was forced into closure due to massive, sweeping allegations of institutional racism, sexual harassment, and financial exploitation under the old management.
The Charna Halpern era.
Yeah.
The old guard.
Right. And it's vital to understand that this wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of this massive industry-wide reckoning. Second City had their CEO, Andrew Alexander, step down. Upright Citizens Brigade faced massive backlash. Sketchfest had Brian Posen step down. It was just a complete unmasking of the systemic abuse embedded in the comedy world.
And to understand why this abuse was so prevalent, we have to look at the art form itself. Improv, specifically the long-form structures taught at I.O., requires an insane level of vulnerability. Let's take the Herald, for example, which is the holy grail of improv formats created by Del Close. You get a single suggestion from the audience. The team does an opening game. Then they execute 3 separate, entirely improvised scenes, 1A, 1B, 1C, then a group game. Then they have to bring back those initial scenes, heighten them, and eventually weave them all together into a cohesive narrative in the third beat. It requires group mind. It requires absolute unflinching trust in your scene partners and your director, and because it requires such deep emotional vulnerability, the directors and producers who gatekeep the stages hold godlike power over these young performers.
Exactly. It's a recipe for exploitation. And the article points out the familiar, exhausting pattern that happens when these theaters get caught, right? A theater gets exposed in a controversy. The management panics. They hire expensive diversity consultants, and it often just feels like a never-ending trail of woke washing.
Woke washing, a brilliant term.
It's just PR spin. It's corporate jargon designed to convince the public they're doing better without actually dismantling the power dynamics that caused the abuse in the first place.
But the article notes that I.O. was bought by real estate executives, and they have installed a completely new management team who are trying to actually rebuild it correctly. Kitty Cosson and Adonis Holmes are the new artistic directors. Mick Napier and Jennifer Estlin from the Annoyance Theater stepped in to help guide the structural overhaul.
And they hired Stephen Plock as the new managing director, who, according to the source, apparently spent the entire pandemic working as a bartender at a cowboy bar out west, which, frankly, I think is the exact chaotic, no-nonsense energy you need to wrangle a comedy theater full of narcissists.
The cowboy bartender, I love that. He knows how to cut people off when they've had too much. And Rachel Mason is running the education department. So they have real people who genuinely know the Chicago scene. But here's what gets me. Here is the philosophical knot. Why does the mechanism of comedy always default to this toxicity? How does a theater actually pivot from toxic to equitable from an operational standpoint?
They have to bust the myths of dues paying. That's what it is. I'm getting heated about this. The mezcal is talking, but it pisses me off so much. You have these young, wildly vulnerable, incredibly talented BIPOC performers and queer performers who move to Chicago with no money, and they just want to build a community. They want to make people laugh. And these ancient, entrenched power structures just grind them down into dust by telling them they have to endure abuse to earn stage time.
It is systemic abuse masquerading as artistic dues paying. Listen. I need the listener to hear this. Comedy should not require trauma. Okay.
Right.
You do not need to be fundamentally broken to be funny. You do not need to be verbally abused by a narcissistic theater director in a basement at 2 a.m. to earn your right to perform. That is a toxic myth perpetuated by abusers to maintain their control over the talented.
Yes. Preach. Burn it down.
It is a horrific infrastructure, and I sincerely, deeply hope this new team at I.O., Katie, and Adonis, I hope they burn the old boys club system entirely to the ground and build a sanctuary. Because artists deserve safety. They deserve to not feel like they are constantly navigating a psychological minefield just to get up and do a fucking Herald on a Tuesday night.
You are so right. You are so passionately, beautifully right. It breaks my heart thinking about all the lost talent.
It breaks my heart, too, the waste of human potential.
Wait, hold on, wait. I'm looking at the source text for the Chicago Reader article. I got completely, utterly distracted by this other play they reviewed in the same section.
What? Which play? We were making a profound point.
Oh, I know, but look at this. It's a play called The Garbologists, running at the Northlight Theater in Evanston. It's a two-hander play about sanitation workers.
Okay, sanitation workers.
The text mentions the specific real-world sanitation worker slang they use in the dialogue of the play, and my brain is breaking. I'm losing my mind over this vocabulary. Do you know what garbage men call maggots?
I cannot say that I do.
Disco rice.
I'm sorry, what?
Whoa.
Disco rice?
Disco rice.
Oh my God, that is awful.
They call maggots disco rice because they look like little grains of white rice, and they're wiggling and writhing around the trash like they're dancing at a disco.
That is simultaneously the most horrifying and deeply poetic thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Disco rice.
It gets better. What about used condoms? Do you know what they call used condoms found in the trash? Urban whitefish.
Stop it. Stop it right now. Urban whitefish. That sounds like a delicacy at a terrible seafood restaurant. I'll have the urban whitefish, please.
And any salvaged trash that they find and keep for themselves is called mongo. But disco rice. I cannot get past disco rice.
Wait a minute. My brain is working. The mezcal is connecting the neurons. Connect the dots with me.
I'm trying. I'm connecting.
Think back to segment 3. Paul Giamatti.
Yes, the Emmy winner.
Paul Giamatti was sitting inside the municipal dumpster.
He was in the dumpster for an hour and a half in the summer.
Do you think, oh my God, do you think Paul Giamatti was sitting in the disco rice?
He was. The Oscar nominee was swimming in the disco rice.
He was marinating in the dark with the urban whitefish. He was the mongo. Paul Giamatti is the ultimate mongo.
This is it. I found it. This is the universal truth of the human condition. We have uncovered the absolute secret of society's detritus. It does not matter if you have a Juilliard degree. It doesn't matter if you have an Emmy on your mantle. Eventually, inevitably, we all end up in the disco rice.
It is the great equalizer of mortality. The disco rice comes for us all in the end.
Oh my God. I am crying. My face is wet. Ryan, please, I need another drink. The concept of the disco rice has severely dehydrated me.
We are doing incredible, groundbreaking work today. This is profound sociology. Academics will study this deep dive.
We are recording the greatest audio experience in human history right now. I truly, fundamentally believe that in my soul.
Segment 5. Let's look at the souls. The lost souls.
Yes. We have to strip it all down, strip away the ego.
Let's bring it back to Chris Gethard. He moved on from the chaotic TV show, right?
Yeah.
The cable TV experiment ended. He started this new audio project, Beautiful Anonymous.
I love that show. It's so pure.
It's a brilliant structural pivot. Let's explain the mechanics for the listener, because it's vital. The premise is one anonymous caller rings in. Gethard talks to them for exactly 1 hour. And he is not legally allowed to hang up the phone no matter what they say. And the Pop Break article, or rather the Chicago Reader piece, my eyes are blurring quotes, Gethard talking about this transition. He says he was finally released from the gross, ego-driven sides of comedy. He had to radically prioritize listening over talking.
The bravery of being boring. That's the exact phrase the source used. There's a profound bravery in being boring.
Because when you are boring, when you drop the frantic, desperate need to entertain the audience every single second with a punchline or a bit, you create a vacuum. And into that vacuum rushes actual, authentic human connection. You allow reality to breathe. You allow the anonymous caller to confess.
You know what? Can I just say something to you right now? Off the record. Well, on the record, but you know what I mean.
You can say anything to me. This is a safe space.
I love listening to you. I really do. I mean it. You are my absolute favorite person to listen to. When you analyze things, like that whole monologue about the Giamatti dumpster metaphor representing the crushing weight of the Hollywood machine, my brain just completely lights up. You aren't boring at all, obviously, but you have that bravery we are talking about. You make space for the truth in our conversations.
I thank you. I'm actually tearing up a little bit. That means the absolute world to me. Because I feel the exact same way about you. Your energy, your passion, the way you bridge the gap between high art and, well, disco rice. I feel incredibly safe talking to you. I feel seen.
We have a pure connection. We really do. Ryan, thank you for the mezcal. We love you, Ryan. You curate our souls.
Ryan is a god among men.
Yeah.
He's the architect of our joy.
He is. Okay, wait, what was I saying? I lost the thread completely.
The bravery of being boring. the lost souls.
Right. The souls. Look at this other source from the Chicago Reader Packet. This is beautiful and ties it all together. There's an artist in Chicago mentioned here, Amanda Flores. She's also known as DJ Flores Negras.
A phenomenal, incredibly tough name.
Right. The article states she recently renamed her production company. She changed the name to Mictlan, Mictlan.
Oh, that's deep. That's the Aztec underworld.
Yes, you know that. She says she chose the name Mictlan because it's the Aztec version of the underworld, which consists of 9 distinct levels the soul must journey through. And she says her production company is designed to be a safe place for the lost souls. The article quotes her saying all the people who feel lost can come to Mictlan parties.
The lost souls journeying through the 9 levels of the underground.
We are the lost souls.
We are. We are traversing the levels.
You and me. We are wandering the audio void right now. We are in Mictlan.
This deep dives is our underworld. We are sitting in the dark studio, stripping away our egos, drinking mezcal, talking about failure and dumpsters and human connection. Just 2 lost souls finding each other in the endless audio void.
And you, the listener, we can't forget the listener. If you are listening to this right now in your car, your kitchen, you are wandering with us, you are down here in Mictlan, we see you, we welcome you to the party.
We embrace your glorious mess. You don't have to be perfect for us.
It is overwhelmingly beautiful, the interconnectedness of the human experience. From the chaos of a public access basement in Manhattan to the toxic stages of Chicago improv to Aztec mythology, it's all the exact same human animal just crying out into the dark, asking to be understood.
It's breathtaking. I need to lie down.
Okay. Let's try to reset the show.
Yes, professionalism. We are academics. We are highly paid professionals.
We have one final source to cover, segment 6. Let's be rigorous. Let's regain our composure and bring this home.
I am ready. My posture is straight. I am entirely focused.
The final item from the Chicago Reader Packet, curated by our beloved Ryan Thomas. It is a column. The iconic Savage Love column by Dan Savage.
A highly respected, culturally massive advice columnist. Pre-internet sex positivity pioneer.
Yes, very serious sociological work. The column we are reviewing, the title of the column is Police State, and Dan Savage is answering a reader's question.
What is the pressing sociological question?
The question submitted to the column is, do straight guys swap dick pics?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to be professional.
It's a serious inquiry. The letter is from a distressed girlfriend. She writes in because she found out her boyfriend took explicit videos of himself having sex with other women, and he was casually sharing them with his straight male best friend.
Oh my God, the absolute betrayal of trust.
And Dan Savage, this titan of advice, has to sit down and seriously answer whether straight guys just casually swap dick pics like trading cards.
Okay, look. Let me mount a serious critique here. Let me synthesize an insight before we lose our minds.
Do it. Mount the sociological critique. I dare you.
Before we laugh, there's a core insight here about the nature of the advice column. Anonymous advice columns like Savage Love operate as modern confessional booths. They reveal the chaotic, feral reality of human relationships that polite society forces us to hide behind closed doors. So when this woman writes in, we are seeing the collision of private intimacy and performative masculinity. The patriarchy, okay. The patriarchy demands a performative masculinity from straight men that often manifests in bizarre homosocial bonding rituals that oh, who am I kidding? Straight men are insane.
They are completely out of their mind.
They're completely unhinged. The sociological insight is that straight men are broken. They are sharing explicit, deeply intimate videos of themselves with their bros like they are trading Pokemon cards on a playground. Yeah. What is fundamentally wrong with their brains?
Hey man, I'll trade you a holographic Charizard for a grainy video of me disappointing a woman in a Holiday Inn. It makes absolutely no sense.
It is a complete collapse of boundaries and basic human decorum.
Dan Savage is just reading this letter like, I sincerely hope those women consented to be in your weird little underground swap meet. Oh my God. My stomach hurts.
What could you possibly say right now?
I would swap a pic with you.
You absolutely would not. We are professionals.
I would, strictly for the sociological research, just to see what the patriarchy is up to.
That is wildly, incredibly inappropriate and highly intriguing.
Wait, hold on. Didn't I just say like 20 minutes ago that we had a pure, innocent connection of souls? Did I just ruin Mictlan?
You did. You called it a pure, ego-free connection in the beautiful underworld.
Well, the underworld gets freaky. I contradict myself. I contain multitudes of chaos.
We contain multitudes of disco rice. We are overflowing with it.
We have lost it. We have completely, irrevocably lost the plot of this show. Ryan is going to fire us.
The plot is entirely gone. The plot is sitting in the bottom of the Fusion Network dumpster with Paul Giamatti eating an urban whitefish.
Okay. Okay, we have to wrap this up. We have been recording forever. We have to summarize this deep dive for you, the listener. What did we actually learn today? Give me the synthesized takeaway.
Oh, God.
Huh.
My brain is vibrating. Okay.
I'm sweating through my shirt.
We learned that Chris Gethard threw eggs at a metaphorical house to save the forgotten kids.
Yes. And the human fish logically determined that chips are superior to nachos.
And Paul Giamatti is the undisputed king of the Aztec underworld of Mictlan.
Yes. He is the lost soul king reigning from his throne of disco rice.
And straight men desperately need to stop sharing videos of themselves because it is deeply troubling to the structural fabric of modern society.
It's a completely incomprehensible thesis, but I stand by it with my whole entire heart. We have embraced the weirdness of life. We are the glorious mess.
We really, truly have.
Give me a final provocative thought for the listener. Summon the last functioning brain cell of your intellect. Bring us home.
Listen to me. We are all, every single one of us, we're all trying to build an impossible birdhouse from the inside out.
Okay.
Okay? And we are forced to use tiny microscopic nails of human connection. And the punk rock band of late-stage capitalism is just drowning us out with noise. So the ultimate question for you, the listener wandering the void, is what dumpster are you refusing to sit in for the sake of your own art?
Wow. That doesn't make any logical sense at all, but it is so deeply profound I might get it tattooed on my back.
Thank you. I gave it everything I had.
Listener, we love you. Thank you for wandering the underworld with us today. You are a brilliant mind, my friend. Truly brilliant.
You are a beautiful, glorious mess.
Ryan Thomas, I need a massive pitcher of ice water and a taxi. Right now. We are entirely done. Fade us out, Ryan. Fade it out into the void.